Welcome back from on top of the wall. I'm your favorite Mason, and guess what? Today we are playing more Pauper. We are playing a blue-white tribal deck called Birds of a Kind. I don't know if you saw the title or the thumbnail or anything like that, but yeah, usually it's right there. I didn't know if you knew. That was just for you guys. I wasn't sure if you saw when you clicked on it and thought about clicking on it for a good 3-4 seconds, thinking about like, oh, what the hell is this? And you're right. This is something from hell. It is birds. It is basically a lot of birds coming at people really, really fast and being really disruptive and really loud, and it's fantastic to watch your opponents just freak out over it. So let me give you the scoop on this deck. This deck, as I mentioned, we are playing tribal birds, and let's start off with our tribal lord birds. These are what we would prefer to play first. We have 2 Wardens of Evos Isle, a 2/2 flyer that makes all of our flying creatures cost 1 less to play. It costs 3 mana, so I wanted to play fewer of it than our 4 of Stormscape Familiar, a 1/1 flyer that makes all white spells and black spells we cast cost 1 less. It's not technically as good of a lord as Warden of Evos Isle, however, it does make all of our white spells and our birds cheaper. Keep in mind, we are primarily a white deck that is splashing blue, so this one fit better. Neither one of them is necessary for our deck to function. Like, we absolutely don't need a lord in this deck to play right, but it helps a lot and helps us explode at our opponent. And now the cards that we're exploding with. We're playing 4 Squad Hawks. Classic 1/1 flyer for 1 and a white, and it tutors for any number of other Squad Hawks in the deck and shuffles. So it's a 1/1 flyer for 2 that draws us more 1/1 flyers. And keep in mind, it only actually costs 1 white mana if we have one of our lords out. And our backup Squad Hawk that is almost as good is very, very close. Welkin Hawk, a 1/1 flyer that does something very similar to Squad Hawk. It tutors out another Welkin Hawk, not just any number of them. These things literally are just like, you have a white mana, you have a 1/1 flyer. It's almost like we're paying X in the middle of like turn 4. And the other birds in our deck, we have 4 Aven Riftwing, and we have 3 Dawn Feather Falcon. Aven Riftwing, a 2/3 with Vanishing 3, flying, cost 2 and a white, but in this deck it'll usually cost us 2. Gains us 2 when it enters the battlefield, and gains us 2 when it leaves the battlefield. This helps us stabilize so much faster and helps us keep pace with some of the more aggressive decks that could come after us in the format. Things like Stompy, things like Burn. That life gain really is helpful and can outclass some of their creatures just by a little bit, giving us an edge. While Dawn Feather Falcon is a 3/3 flyer for 5 mana, but it can cost only 4, sometimes even 3 mana. And when it enters, all of our creatures get +1/+1 and vigilance. So when we have, let's say, 8 flying birds, and then we just play this, we're attacking suddenly for 16 in the air. For even more birds, we have 2 copies of Battle Screech. 2 white sorcery with flashback by tapping a white creature. This card produces 2 1/1 white bird token creature. And it is yet another card that has its cost reduced by our lords, specifically Stormscape Familiar. Now with all of these birds, we should obviously have a little bit more payoff for the birds than just the lords. We should be having, I don't know, some kind of advantage of that, but oh wait, we do! We have Airborne Aid, a better version of Distant Melody. It is a card that we're only playing 2 copies of. It says each bird in play, not just creatures of the type that we choose that we control. So it will count our opponent's birds if they have any, it'll count their Aven Riftwings if they have any, it'll count their Squad Hawks, it'll count their 1/1 bird tokens, and it'll gain us a card for each one of those. And we still got more card advantage. We have 4 Brainstorms, and I know a lot of people in Pauper are against Brainstorm because we don't have as many good shuffling effects, but we are playing Squad Hawk, Welkin Hawk, we are playing some things that are mana based that help us shuffle, making for a potential total of 10 different shuffle triggers that we can get, and some of the shuffle triggers find more shuffle triggers. Now I did mention stabilizing earlier. The more aggressive and stompier decks that I was talking about are the things that we might want to try to tempo against to keep ourselves at parity with them and get to a point where we can race them back and start decking them in the air for 7 and 8. We have 3 Vapor Snags, cost 1 blue, return target creature to its owner's hand. That creature's controller loses 1 life. We also have 3 Mana Ties. It is a white 4 spike that literally nobody ever sees coming because it's a counter spell in white. You leave up 1 white mana, your opponent goes, oh, they don't have a play for the turn. All right, time to cast my big spell. I curve out. Wait, did I just get, what's that? A 4 spike. There goes Gary. And to really make sure that we can stabilize, we are playing 2 Prismatic Strands, 2 into white, prevent all damage this turn from the chosen color. Has flashback by tapping a white creature, of which we have plenty. We got 3 Weight of Conscience, which is 1 in a white aura. Enchanted creature can't attack, and we can tap 2 creatures that share a creature type and exile the enchanted creature. So essentially, if we're tapping 2 creatures and we're playing this for 1 sorcerer speed, we can exile a creature, or we can play it for 1 mana, keep the creature on the defensive during a time when they want to be trampling over us, stomping us to death, and then later when we want to switch to offensive, beforehand we can just tap our creatures the turn before we would like to go on the offensive, removing their creature's ability to block because it's exiled, keeping it out of the graveyard, it's gone for good, and we have 1 Gaze of Justice. 1 white, tap 4 untapped white creatures you control, exile target creature. Has flashback for 5 into white, but you still have to pay for the tapping creatures part because it's in addition to its other cost. This card is not necessarily as good as Weight of Conscience straight up. However, the fact that you can flash it back is card advantage, almost like having another card in hand. Now for our mana base. We are playing 6 tap duels. We're playing 2 Azorius Guildgate. Oh god, Guildgates. I love Guildgates, but they're just not as good. 4 Tranquil Cove, gains us a little bit of life. 2 Islands, 9 Plains, 3 Ash Barrens. 2 Ash Barrens for an additional shuffle trigger and to help fix our mana, because on occasion we do need an untapped blue source immediately. Now onto our sideboard. I wanted to start with all of our cards that are there just to fight Electrickery. I already know that people are picking on this because of Electrickery. That's why we have 7 different ways to fight that and other damage-based removal board wipes. We're playing 1 Hollow, prevent all damage that would be dealt by target spell and instead gain that much life. It's a good card that also works against burn, but also works against Electrickery. Sometimes 7, 8 damage spread across all of our creatures, 1 for each of them. We prevent that damage, basically countering the Electrickery, and we gain 8 life. It's a 1-for-1 that also gains us 8 life for 1 mana. We have 3 Hydroblast, which is fantastic against any red deck as a sideboard removal card. It's arguable that, like, I'm insane not for playing 4 of them. It's pretty good against aggro and burn. Counter target red spell or destroy target red permanent for 1 blue mana. Now watch out, this one's a little bit crazy. 3 Luma Threads Field. 1 in a white, creature you control get +0/+1. Completely negates Electrickery and Shrivel and all that stuff, but it also has Morph, and you can pay 1 in a white to flip it face up. So you can effectively wait for them to play Electrickery or Shrivel or Nausea or whatever have you, and then simply turn it face up, rendering their spell pointless. Then we have 2 Relic of Progenitus. I am very insistent on playing Graveyard Hate because every time that you don't play Graveyard Hate and you try to like skimp on it a little bit more than the format would like, you immediately just see all these decks that like to delve cards away, and you like to see all these Tortured Existence cards, and you like to see all these cards that just like, oh, I'm just gonna return a card from the graveyard for value and do it again, and do little shenanigans here. No, we play Relic of Progenitus, we play Neil Spellbomb, we play whatever we need to keep the graveyards in check. Otherwise, they will outvalue you for days. Darksteel Axe for when we have to deal with creatures that outclass ours, and we have to maybe worry about piecing out our creatures little by little, slowing ourselves down, making sure that our creatures will trade with theirs. And 1 Sylvok Lifestaff, it helps us gain a lot of life and helps us trade with earlier creatures in the game. Things like the Goblin Red deck or the Stompy deck or some of the Boggle creatures, some of the Mono White Heroic creatures that like to pop up. We got 2 Dust to Dust to help fight against artifacts and affinity. 1 Patrician Scorn. It costs 3 and a white, and if we played another white spell this turn, we can cast it without paying its mana cost, and it destroys all the enchantments on the battlefield. So it essentially is a free spell that destroys all the enchantments on the battlefield. And our Weight of Consciousness, we can of course choose when we're playing this spell and choose to tap our creatures in response, exiling the creature underneath Weight of Consciousness. And so that creature will be exiled, the card will go to the graveyard, and then this will have nothing left of ours to destroy, and 1 standard bear, because Inside Out combo deck has been popping up more in the format and it's gotten back to tier 1, and also boggles are still a constant threat in the format. That one was a sweet one. I enjoyed playing so many creatures and drawing so many cards, attacking with all those creatures, and tapping those creatures to help me cast my spells, and then it's almost like Bird Ball instead of Elf Ball, just a lot of flying for those elves, and it's just a fewer number of elves, but more flying. And this deck, it was actually one of my faster builds, but it took a little bit longer to optimize because there was just so many different options for the way that you could build with the birds. And I thought about playing bird auras for a while, which is crazy with this deck. Like just having a pro red, pro green, or pro black bird, and just going, oh, this bird gets first strike and vigilance and +1/+1 and all this other stuff, and just boggle birds that have protection from your deck's color specifically. But that was a little jankier than I had anticipated. I knew it was janky going in, but I wasn't quite prepared for how janky it was and how frequently it just whiffed on the protection bird that you needed. And even with like tutoring and stuff, like it didn't quite work out right. But don't worry, next week we got something not janky at all. We're playing a blue-red suspend deck, very aggressive. It has your opponent running and you up on their heels, and it's fantastic. Don't forget to check us out next week for that. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, hit the bell icon or whatever. That's all for now. Comment in for that face touch. There's a squirrel staring at me from outside my window. It is literally just looking at me.